Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel SemcoMama, where I share my sewing, homemade and creative adventures. In this video I'm going to walk you through how I make my cloth pads from start to finish. But before we dive in, let's talk about why reusable pads are such a great option. Disposable pads might seem convenient, but they have some pretty big downsides. They have a huge impact on our planet, taking hundreds of years to decompose. Plus, they are full of chemicals that can irritate your skin and mess with your body's natural balance. Did you know that one woman will use approximately 10 to 15,000 pads over her lifetime? With cloth pads, you can get away with 10 to 15 when you wash them daily, and if they are well looked after, they can last for many years. They are cost-effective, healthier, more comfortable and customizable. Plus, you can make them yourself, which is what we are going to do today. Well, let's get started. I will be using the Curvy Classic pattern from Happy Hippos, which comes in a range of sizes from 6 inches to 16 inches. The pattern is available using the link in the description box below. There are two methods I like to use when sewing pads: the turning and top stitching method or the serging overlocking method. And today I'm going to show you both. For the turn pad, I'm using a pink velour topper, 100% cotton fleece for the core on the inside, and a waterproof soft shell at the back to prevent leaks. I made the largest size, a 16 inch. I used four layers of cotton fleece for the core. The cotton fleece that I used is 260 grams per meter, so that gives you a total of 1,040 grams per meter. So it will be a great overnight pad. For the serge pads, I'm using 100% cotton fleece for the topper, as well as for the core on the inside, and a waterproof soft shell at the back. I made some liners in the smallest size, 6 inch. I used one layer for the core, but since the top is also cotton fleece, it adds up to 520 grams per meter, which is actually more than enough for a liner. Here's the absorbency chart that you can use to figure out how many layers you will need depending on the fabric that you are using. First things first, you need to print out the pattern. Make sure your settings are set to actual size. The pattern consists of 2 pages, one for half of the pad and one for half of the core pattern, so print out 2 copies of each. Check the 1-inch box on the pattern to ensure printed correctly. Take one of the pages for the pad pattern and cut off the excess paper on the cutting line. Then paste this page onto the other pad pattern page. Repeat this process with the core pattern. Cut out the size pad you want to sew and use the same size for the core pattern. For the serge pad, place the top of fabric right side up. Trace the pattern onto the fabric using a washable marker, making sure to leave space around the pattern for seam allowance. Don't forget to mark the snap placements, 2 on one wing and 1 on the other. Cut around the traced line, leaving about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch for seam allowance. For a tint pad, place the top of fabric wrong side up. Trace the pattern onto the wrong side of the fabric, again leaving space for seam allowance. Cut around the traced line, leaving about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch for seam allowance. Mark the turning hole about 5 centimeter or 2 inches. Place your core pattern on top of your absorbency fabric. Trace and cut out your fabric. Cut on the line. Use the absorbency chart to determine how many layers you need. Place your topper wrong side up. Center all the core layers in the correct size on the topper and pin them in place. This is the same for both serged and turn pads. Sew your cord to the topper as close to the edges as possible. I use the 3-step zigzag setting on my sewing machine, but you can use any stitch you like. For larger pads, I sew a line through the middle as well. For a serge pad, place the back of fabric, your waterproof fabric, wrong side up. I prefer to use the fluffy side as the outside and the slippery side as the inside. Place the topper right side up on top of the back of fabric and pin it in place. Then cut out the shape. For a turned pad, place the back of fabric right side up. Place the topper wrong side down on top of the back of fabric. Pin it in place and then cut out the shape. Place pins or clips around the pad to secure the top and bottom and mark the opening hole clearly. I usually start serging from the bottom of the pad using the serger's blade. Cut on the traced line while keeping your eyes on the blade to avoid misalignment. Try to keep the curve smooth and push into the blades. Serging takes practice, but it's much faster once you get the hang of it. Leave a long tail and finish off using your preferred method. Using a straight stitch, sew all around the pad except for the turning hole. Trim around the pad, leaving a bit of seam allowance. Clip the curves and turn the pad inside out through the turning hole. Use a blunt object to poke out the edges and press the pad flat. Pin the turning hole closed, smooth out the curves with your fingers and pin to keep them in place. Top stitch around the pad, about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. You'll need 1 socket, female, 2 studs, male, snaps, and 3 caps. If you have not yet, mark your snap placements, 1 on one wing and 2 on the other. Start with the wing that has 1 marking. Poke a hole using an awl or a dull needle. Insert the cap from the top with the pointy side on the back. Attach the socket piece and fasten with pliers. For the other wing, poke 2 holes, insert 2 caps with pointy sides up, and attach the studs. Fasten them securely. And there you have it. Your reusable cloth pads are all done. Alright, that's it for today's video. If you found this helpful, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe for more sewing tutorials. And as always, all the links you need are down in the description box. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Happy sewing!